In this session, we are going to discuss about Sister Callista Roy's adaptation model, part 1. So, this is one of the very common nursing theories which we use in nursing practice. And even from an exam point of view, especially for a postgraduate student, this model is found to be something very important which you may get it as an essay question. So, let us discuss about Sister Roy's adaptation model. So, to begin with, let us start with a beautiful quote which is given by Roy. The quote goes like this: when push comes to a shove, we will seldom disappoint ourselves. We all harbor greater stores of strength than we think. Adversity brings the opportunity to test our mettle and discover for ourselves the stuff of which we are made. How real and how meaningful is the quote? That is, when push comes to a shove, we will disappoint ourselves. There are some people whom we can find around, or maybe even you may be that particular person who always think that you are a very timid person and you don't have that much of courage and capability to overcome a particular situation. But only when adversity comes to test it, you will know what is your real strength. Because Roy believes that we all harbor greater stores of strength than we think. I know few people who always think that they are very afraid of even small things. But I have personally seen them in their life where even when they have encountered a big problem, okay, they are able to overcome it very successfully, and they themselves have told me, madam, it's really true that I didn't know that I have so much of strength, I didn't know that I have so much of courage, I didn't know that I can adapt so much. Because only when adversity comes, it is going to test your real inner strength, and then you discover for yourselves the stuff of which you are made. So that is the power of adaptation. We all are having the ability to adapt, and only when a problem comes, you find yourself that yes, I am a person who's having a lot of patience, or maybe I am a person who can overcome any big problems in life. So that is the wonderful statement which Roy has given regarding adaptation. So with this quote, let us move on to the theorist. Whenever you write in an exam, always it is nice that if you can introduce the theorist, because what to say, you should write at least few sentences about a particular theorist. Now here is our sister Callista Roy. Already I have told in my theorist and theories video, I have told you that she is sister Callista Roy because she later in her life she became a nun sister, and I told you that she is a wonderful person to teach us what is adaptation. So let us see about Sister Callista Roy, a very capable person. Okay, she is a nurse theorist. Definitely, she is a writer. She has written lots of papers and she has written lots of even books related to her conceptual model. She is a lecturer, researcher, and a teacher. She did her Bachelor's of Arts with a major in nursing at St. Mary's College, Los Angeles, 1963. And she completed her master's degree in pediatric nursing. So she is a pediatric nurse from University of California, Los Angeles in 1966. She did not stop with a master's degree in nursing. She also undertook a master's degree and her PhD in sociology. So I think you can relate it, like what to say, a person who has studied a great amount of sociology, okay, will be a person who can teach us what is how to adapt in a society, how to adapt with the environment, and so on. So she did her masters in pediatric nursing. Along with that, she also did her masters and PhD in the subject of sociology in 1973 and 1977. And then this is something which I want to tell you. That is, if you want to know what is the caliber of Sister Callista Roy, I want you to listen to this. This particular Roy adaptation model, when she developed it as a part of her graduate work, which means her BSc. during the time of her graduate work, that is in 1963 to 64, actually, to be very specific, in the year 1964, she was challenged by her teacher, Dorothy E. Johnson. You all know who is Dorothy E. Johnson. Johnson is again a pediatric nurse. She has given the very famous behavioral system model. Okay, so I just want you to remember that Roy's teacher was Dorothy E. Johnson, and this Dorothy E. Johnson challenged Sister Roy to come up with a model for nursing which can be used as a base for curriculum. Okay, so she was challenged during the time of a seminar in 1964. And what did Roy do? She did a great amount of work and she developed a model. Okay, as per to the instruction given by her teacher, she developed a model and that became the conceptual framework of Roy's adaptation model. So, much interest. So, I want you to listen to this. This Roy adaptation framework, what she formed, it gained a lot of interest and respect since its 1964 inception. From the time she brought that framework, it created a lot of interest and respect. And then it was taken as a basis of curriculum at Mount St. Mary's College. Wow, what a pride moment, is it not? Like when she developed a framework that was taken as a basis for curriculum and it was implemented in that St. Mary's College. The basis of curriculum was based on Roy's adaptation model. And then in 1991, she founded an association called as Boston Based Adaptation Research in Nursing Society. Later, she renamed it as Roy's Adaptation Association. Roy adaptation. You know what they did? 1991. From the year when her framework or model was put into practice, from that period till that 1991, they collected all the research studies which were done based on Roy's adaptation model, and so they compiled all the research works and still they are doing that particular work. So that is, she developed the Roy's Adaptation Association. She also created a new position called as resident nurse theorist, and she is teaching at present for undergraduates, postgraduates, and even doctoral students at Boston's College of Nursing. In addition, Roy, as I told you before, she is the author, she has been the co-author, she has been the contributing author for numerous works. And let me tell you, this is one of the most widely used framework in nursing practice. That is, nurses all over the world, they still continue to use this wonderful model which is called as adaptation model. So that is about introduction to theorist. So as students, if you are listening to this particular video, I'll just tell you that you should remember few key words related to Roy. Number one, remember her teacher was Dorothy E. Johnson. Johnson was a pediatric nurse. Roy was a pediatric nurse. Then she did her master's and doctorate in sociology, and that is how she came up with adaptation model. Then you can think about Roy's how she was challenged by her teacher during her graduate program and how she brought up this particular adaptation model, and even now this adaptation model is being used as the basis of curriculum in a particular college of nursing, and even now she is continuing her good work. So that is about introduction to Sister Callista Roy. Now let us move on to philosophical underpinning. See, whenever we say that a particular theorist has developed a theory, okay, we always, to begin with, this particular theorist will always depend on other theories. They depend on other theories in order to select certain definitions. Maybe they select certain concepts from other theories, and that is how they bring it to their own theory. So any theorist in the beginning, they have a they base their work on previous other theories. So that is what is called as philosophical underpinnings. Now let me tell you who is the first person who has influenced her. Definitely it is Johnson's nursing model. You know, Johnson's behavioral system nursing model. Okay, so that model influenced her. Other than that, Roy's theory is based on several other theories. She took certain definitions and concepts from, say, Helson's adaptation theory. See, it is an adaptation theory. Our famous Ludwig van Beetalen's system model, Rappaport's system definition, stress and adaptation theories of Selye, it's very famous theory, and Lazarus coping model. So you can find that Roy based all her concepts and definitions. At least remember two or three. Remember her teacher, Dorothy Johnson. Remember about adaptation, Helson's adaptation, about some stress, Selye stress, Lazarus coping model. So that is about the philosophical underpinnings of the theory. Now that we have understood the philosophical underpinnings, let's move on to the major concepts of theory. See, in any theory when you're studying, in any nursing theory you study, you have to study what are the various concepts of the theory. You remember in part 1 video I told you, concepts are the building blocks of theories. If there are no concepts, there is no theory. So let us see what are the major concepts in Roy's adaptation model. I can tell you, as the name of the model indicates, the most important phenomena here is adaptation. Maybe you can remember, this bird has to adapt with other birds. It has to adapt to the various stimuli which is present in the environment. Okay, so the most important concept is adaptation. But still, in a summary, I can say you adaptation is the goal of nursing. So this will be clear as we are going to discuss the numerous slides ahead. Okay, person is considered to be an adaptive system. See what Roy believed about human beings. Human beings are adaptive system. Environment is having a lot of stimuli. Health is the outcome of adaptation. And what is the role of nursing? To promote adaptation and health. So the same thing I will be discussing at the last. That time you will be able to understand very clearly how these concepts are getting suited into Roy's theory. Now let us talk about adaptation. Okay, as I have put here a picture, now you find, I think most of these people, they are on wheelchairs, maybe due to fracture, maybe due to spinal cord injury. They have to adapt. You know what is adapt? We have to adjust. So let us see what is the definition of adaptation as given by Roy. This is a beautiful statement which Roy has given about adaptation. The process and the outcome. See, I want to tell again here. Roy did not believe that adaptation is an outcome. She also believed that adaptation is a process. Now, for example, if I am a first year BSc nursing student, okay, just for an example, if I am a first year BSc nursing student and it's been, say, 4 months after I have joined this particular college and I'm staying in the hostel, I feel I have adjusted to the college surroundings. I feel that I have adjusted to my classmates. But still, adaptation is continuing. I can't say that I'm completely adapted. Still, I will have to adapt. Maybe to my second year, maybe with my seniors, maybe in the next year with my juniors. I have to get adapted. So we can never say that adaptation is an outcome. Adaptation is a process, and also adaptation is an outcome whereby thinking and feeling persons, only these people will be able to adapt. Thinking and feeling persons, either as individuals or in groups. Let me stress there. Roy, in her theory, in most of the places, Roy has given importance to always to individual as well as to group. See, there are certain theories in which you can critic and say that the theorist has given only importance to individual. The theorist did not consider the group. But in Roy, you cannot say that. Roy, everywhere she has taken the individual and the groups. As an individual or in groups, okay, we use conscious awareness and choice to create human and environmental integration. Again, I would like to explain here because adaptation, how can I adapt to somebody else? I should be consciously aware and I should make a choice. I can always make a choice whether to get adjusted or whether not to get adjusted with a particular person. Even with another human being or even with my roommate, it is a choice for me to decide whether to adapt or not to adapt. Okay, so there is always a choice. Consciously, I am aware that I'm getting adjusted to somebody. So that is, you use conscious awareness, you use choice to create what? To create integration, to have a equilibrium, to have a wonderful life, to have a human integration, to have an environmental integration. Now let us read and see this point once again. Adaptation is a process and an outcome whereby persons, either as individual or as a group, we use conscious awareness. I'm consciously aware that I'm getting adapted, and I make a choice so that I have human integration and environmental integration. So that is the wonderful point which is given by Sister Roy. Adaptation. If you are well adapted, these are the advantages. Adaptation leads to optimum health, well-being, quality of life, and to die with dignity. How wonderful, is it not? If you are a well-adapted person, if you're, it's not only adaptation is not only to another human being and to environment, we'll be studying even physiologically, we'll have to get adapted. If you're well adapted, you will have optimum health, you will have optimum quality of life, and even if I die with dignity. That is the beauty of having a life which is having a very good adaptation. So that is about the first concept which I wanted to tell you, that is adaptation. Now, coming on to Roy adaptation model, this I just prepared a picture for my easy explanation. These are the four headings which you have to remember in Roy's adaptation model. That is, there is an input, there is a control process, there is an effector, and then there is an output. And from the output, there is a feedback, and again it goes input, control process, effector, output. Now let us see the picture which is given by Sister Roy. Now this is a schematic diagram which Sister Roy has put in her adaptation model. See here, the four headings are there: input, control process, effector, output. Now we are going to discuss in detail regarding these particular concepts in the following slides. In the input, we have two things I want you to look here. Input, we have stimuli and we have the adaptation level. In control process, we have only one, that is our coping mechanism. It can either be a regulator or it can be cognitor. In effectors, we have four effectors: physiological function, self-concept, role function, interdependence. And in output, it is either adaptive response or it can be ineffective response. This will become very clear when we understand what is each thing in the following slide. So first is input. Okay, when do we have to adapt? Only when there is a stimuli. So as Roy told in the first slide, when the quote what I have explained, I told you that only when there is a adversity, only when there is somebody to challenge, you grow. So that is the input. So that input actually is of two types. One is you have the stimuli and another one is the adaptation level. So let us see what is stimuli, what is adaptation level. So stimuli. Stimuli is anything which is going to trouble you either to grow or to go down. Okay, it can either be positive or it can be negative. Now let us see, there are three types of stimuli which is given by Sister Roy. Let us see what are the three types. Number one is focal stimuli. Number two is contextual stimuli. And number three is residual stimuli. It is very simple. Let us try to learn what it is. Focal stimuli is a stimuli. It can either be an internal stimuli or it can be an external stimuli, immediately confronting the person or a group, immediately affecting you. For example, let me take a person is smoking. Okay, this person always have a problem. He wants to keep on smoking cigarettes. Okay, he wants to keep smoking. Now, what is the reason why he is smoking? What is that immediate stimuli which is making you to smoke? Okay, the reason is nicotine addiction. This person has become addicted to nicotine. So the focal stimulus is this person is addicted and so the person is smoking. Now I can give you many other examples. Okay, you listen to a class, you feel sleepy. Okay, while you feel sleepy, maybe you feel that the class is boring. Maybe the class is boring and that is why I feel sleepy. So that is called as focal stimuli. There is a reason why that particular thing is happening. Okay, it is an internal or an external stimulus immediately confronting a person, which is directly affecting that particular person. That is called as focal stimuli. Now let us see what is a contextual stimuli. Contextual stimuli is all the other stimuli which is present and which is contributing to the focal stimuli. It influences how a person can deal with the focal stimulus, which means it is not a direct stimuli, but there are many other small things which is contributing to the focal stimulus. Let us see that same example. In cigarette smoking, the main reason is nicotine addiction, but other than that, this person who is smoking is having a belief that smoking, it makes the life more enjoyable, and smoking makes that person more relaxing. Okay, that is the reason why this person is keeping on smoking, because he has a belief that, what to say, the smoking is something which gives him a lot of joy and which gives him a lot of relaxation. Now coming on to the other example, what I told you, you listen to a class, you feel bored. Okay, you feel that the class is boring and you start sleeping. That is a focal stimuli. Contextual stimuli is the same student has not slept the previous night. Maybe the class is boring. Other than that, if you're going to see, you have not slept in the previous night. You did not sleep. Maybe you slept only around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Maybe it is an afternoon time which you are listening to the class after a heavy lunch. All these things are contextual stimuli, because all these things are making you to feel again feeling sleepy. Okay, so that is what is contextual stimuli, the additional factors which are present which can contribute to the focal stimuli is called as contextual stimuli. Now let us go on to the third stimuli, residual stimuli. What is a residual stimuli? Factors whose effect in the current situation is unclear. There is no clear idea, but that also can make a person to continue smoking. Okay, we don't know what is the real relationship between this and that, but the data is unclear. But maybe a nurse, based on experience, based on the theory, she will be able to identify the residual stimuli. Now, for example, if I am going to tell you cigarette smoking, there is a belief on body image and weight gain. Can you just imagine that a person is having a belief that if I am going to stop smoking, I will have weight gain. So to prevent weight gain, I will continue smoking. You cannot tell very clearly how that happens, but there are some people who are concerned about body image and they don't want their weight to be gained, and so they continue smoking. But you don't have a clear cut idea how that body image is related perfectly to smoking. Okay, maybe that particular period of the in the other example, maybe I don't know, afternoon time, every first period I feel sleepy. I don't know what is the exact relation. Or maybe every second period, or maybe at 11 to 12 a.m. 11 to 12 noon I always feel sleepy. There is no clear cut idea what is the relationship, but maybe by experience we learn, we try to understand, maybe that is the residual stimuli. So I hope it is clear. I am discussing about the first part in Roy's adaptation model, that is input. In input, there are two things. One is stimuli, another one is adaptation level. We have completed the stimuli, that is focal stimuli, contextual stimuli, residual stimuli. Focal stimuli is the immediate stimuli that is confronting a person. That is called as focal stimuli. Whereas contextual stimuli are all the additional factors that can end up to focal stimuli. Residual stimuli, we don't know what is the exact reason, but somehow it can be related. That is called as residual stimuli. So now that we have understood what is stimuli, let us go on to the second part which is given under input, that is adaptation level. What is an now stimuli is coming from outside, or the stimulus can also be from inside. There are some people who don't have any problem in life, but they always feel depressed. What is the reason is It comes from the internal. There may be an internal stimuli which is telling you that you're not worthy, you're not good, you are compared, when you compare to your friend, you are nothing, you have not ended up with any success in life. See, all those things are stimulus, but these stimulus are coming from internal. So Roy has made it very clear that stimulus can either be internal or it can be external. Now, with this understanding, let us see what is adaptation level. Adaptation level is however strong the stimuli may be, there are some people who are not affected by that particular stimuli. That is called as adaptation level. See, we all have a threshold. We all have a threshold for each one of us, which God has given to adapt to a particular situation. So, let us see what is adaptation level. A zone within which stimulation will lead to a positive or adaptive response. Okay, and this adaptation level can be told at three levels, that is integrated, compensatory and compromised. Adaptation level is, some people you will find that they have a lot of patience, whereas they are able to adjust to any sort of difficult situation, whereas there are some people, even for small things, they cannot adjust with anybody. What is the reason? That is because of the adaptation level. That is because of the level of adaptation what we have within us. That is the threshold what we have within us. It may differ from one person to another person. So let us say what is this adaptation level, the three process. One is integrated, second one is compensatory, third one is compromised. First, let us discuss what is integrated life process. I'll tell you, integrated, you and me, we are integrated in many things in our, especially physiologically. For example, I don't suffer from dyspnea at present by the grace of God. I don't have any problems with many activities. I'm able to do my activities. You are able to, have an exercise. You're able to take rest. All those things are integrated. Integrated means when everything is going on well, you can say that it is integrated. When everything is perfect, I have a very good relationship with my family. I have very good relationship with my friends. I have very good relationship with my co-workers, my students. When everything is going on wonderfully, you call that life process as integrated life process. Adaptation, when you are having a very good adaptation level, you end up with this integrated life process. The structure and the function is working to meet the needs. Family goes on very well, classes goes on very well, physiologically goes on very well, financially, health wise, society wise. When everything you are able to adapt and go on well, that is called as integrated life process, higher level of adaptation. Number two is compensatory life process. What is compensatory life process? It is activated by a challenge. When a stimuli is going to activate by a challenge to the life process, it is called as compensatory. Everything goes on well. Suddenly you get a phone call. You hear that one of your loved one is no more, and that particular person is so dear to you. Okay, everything was integrated so far, but suddenly you hear the loss of a loved one. You start to undergo the process of grieving, and now you are challenged by the loss of a dear one, and so it is called as compensatory process. Automatically you are starting to work on that. There is a cognator and there is a regulator, I will tell you later. So that is going to get stimulated. Grieving, higher level of adaptation, role transition, everything was perfect. You had a very good school life, you had a very good college life. Now you are going to a post graduation. There you find people are different, college infrastructure is different, environment is different. Okay, now again you're challenged to adapt to the new surroundings. You were a student, now you have become a teacher. You're challenged to adapt to a new role. That is called as compensatory process. The third one is compromised process. It's a very difficult one. Compromised process is when you are not able to adapt properly. It is a problem in adaptation. You call that as compromised process. See here, the adaptation level where there is inadequate integration, inadequate compensation, there is a problem. Here, there is a picture of a person. Let us say that this person is suffering from interstitial lung disease. Interstitial lung disease at a severe stage, he has to be always connected to a oxygen cylinder. Actually, now he is having deprived oxygen. Okay, and so he has to depend on an oxygen cylinder. It is an integrated. A person who is not able to cope up with the loss of a loved one, ending up with a depression, is an example of compromised life process. So, we have discussed about the first part of Roy's adaptation model, that is input. So in input, we discussed about stimuli, three stimuli: focal, contextual, residual. Number two is adaptation level. Adaptation level, we discussed about it can be integrated, it can be compensatory, it can be compromised. So now we go on to the second part here. This is the one, control process. Control process, this when a stimuli is coming, when your adaptation level is affected. Say for example, you hear the loss of a loved one. Okay, now you feel really challenged by that particular stimuli. Immediately what happens is, two things will happen. Number one is your regulator system will be activated. Number two, your cognitor system will be activated. So that is what is happening in the control process. When a stimuli is coming, when it is affecting you, immediately within your body, the regulator and the cognitor subsystems are going to be activated. Let us discuss what is this control process and what are the regulator and the cognitor. Before we go on to the regulator and the cognitor, let me tell you, in coping mechanisms, we all are blessed with innate and acquired coping mechanisms. That is what I was trying to tell you. Some of us are so blessed in life that we have innate coping mechanism. Innate coping mechanism is, we would have really admired and you would have really wondered at some people, how in this world is that person able to have so much of patience in handling, how in the world she is able to adjust so well even with that particular person. That is because of innate coping mechanism. It is not, it is because, it may be because of innate coping mechanism which is genetically determined. Genetically determined by the DNA, the double stranded DNA which comes from the parents to the offspring. So automatically they are genetically engineered that they are able to adapt so well even to a threatening stimuli. The second one is acquired coping mechanisms. Some of us, where we are not blessed with such innate coping mechanism, we can go for acquired coping mechanism. It is a learned coping. I have seen my friends doing like that. I have seen my colleagues doing like that. And I think it is a better option. So I take up that particular adaptation. So that is called as acquired coping mechanism. It is learned or developed through customary responses. So we discussed about innate, we discussed about acquired. Next we go on to regulator and cognitor subsystems. What is regulator? What is cognitor? Very simple. Regulator is when your body is responding automatically through these channels: neural, chemical, endocrine coping channels. Whenever there is a particular stimuli, it immediately through the senses, it will affect the fluid, electrolyte, acid base balance and endocrine system. You need not do anything for regulator subsystem because it is an automatic unconscious response. Let me give you an example. Suppose if there is hypoxemia in your blood, okay, suppose the oxygen level goes down a little bit, what does your body do? Immediately the message is sensed by the brain, it gives the information to the heart. What will the heart do? The heart starts to pump faster. You will find tachycardia. You will find the cardiac output is increased. You will find that the blood pressure is increasing. So all compensatory mechanisms which are taking place within the body to overcome that particular stimuli of hypoxia, that is called as regulator subsystem. Immediately the neural, the endocrine, the chemical channels are activated. Automatic unconscious response to that particular stimuli is created. What is a cognitor subsystem? Cognitor is, this is the keyword, it is a mental coping mechanism. It is not by hormones, it is a mental. I am consciously aware about it and I try to learn to overcome that particular situation. I learn or I try my level best to adapt to that particular situation by four channels. What are the four channels given by Roy? Perceptual and information processing, learning, judgment, emotion. So four ways the brain is learning how to cope up or how to adapt to a particular situation. Now, if you want to learn in depth, you can study Fawcett's textbook. They have wonderfully explained each and every point how it is happening. So for those of you who are interested, perceptual and information processing is where you give selective attention, coding, memory. See, I find that talking to a particular person ends up always with a conflict. Okay, next time what my brain will tell is, it will bring this coding and memory. It will bring to the point that, see, don't talk beyond this. If you go beyond that, maybe this will end up with a fight, right? We all have that coding and we have that memory thing which is alerting you. It is a way to adapt to a particular person. So that is called as perceptual and information processing. Number two is learning. Learning is, maybe I learned from others how to adapt. That is imitation. Maybe I reinforce the positive things within me. I get an insight how to adapt to a particular situation. So that is also done by the brain. It helps you to imitate, it helps you to reinforce. Number three is judgment. Judgment is learning how to solve a problem or deciding how to make a decision in a particular situation. Okay, when you are ending up with an argument, you decide yourself that, okay, I will not end up in this particular fight. I'm not going to put me down myself because of this particular conflict. That is judgment. Number four is emotion. Emotion is, you bring your defense mechanisms into life and you try to get an effective appraisal or achievements. You try to get relief from anxiety by opening up your defense mechanism. We have studied a lot of defense mechanisms in psychology. You take any one of the defense mechanism and try to overcome that particular situation. Thereby you learn to adapt. So that is about the cognata subsystem. So what we have discussed so far is the input and the control process. So in the control process, we have discussed about regulator and cognata. Very simple. Regulator is automatic. Regulator is unconscious response. Whereas cognator is, it is related to brain, cognitive. It is related to brain. There are four channels how you can learn to adapt. That is how the body is coping up. It is a control process. So input, stimuli, focal, contextual, residual. Adaptation level, we studied integrated, compensatory, compromised. Coping mechanism, two types are there. Innate is there, acquired is there. Innate is genetically engineered. Acquired is, you learn it by customary responses. Regulator subsystem, cognata subsystem. Regulator is automatic, happening even without your consciousness within the body. Cognator is, you're using your brain and you're trying to help to overcome or help to adapt to a particular situation. So input, control process, over. The third one is effectors. Now, what is the beauty in Roy's adaptation model is, she has told that none of this regulator or cognator is visible. Can you see the endocrine channels flowing in your body? Can you see the brain giving signal to the heart and the heart trying to beat fast? No. We can't see the control process. We can't see what is a regulator, what is a cognator. What we can see is the effector. How it is reflected in your body, that is what is effector. What somebody else can see, what you can see for yourself in adaptation is effector. So in effector, we have four modes. In this four modes, you can observe yourself how you are adapting. So that is what here it is written. It is not possible to directly observe regulator and cognator. So it is observed only in four adaptive modes. So what are the four adaptive modes is what is discussed in effector. Physiological-physical, self-concept group identity. Third one is role function mode. Number four is interdependence mode. So what you and me can check for ourselves is whether we are adapted in these four modes, whether we are adapted physiologically, physically, whether you are adapted in the self-concept group identity mode. What about role function? What about interdependence mode? So let us see one by one. Here itself, again, let me tell you, Roy was very careful in putting two modes together. Physiological, physical mode. You know what that means? Physiological is meaning for individual. When an individual wants to adapt to the environment, when an individual wants to adapt within himself, you call that as physiological mode. What is physical mode? She kept that word for a group of individuals who wants to adapt. So for individual, it is physiological. For a group, it is physical mode. What is this talking about? Physiological mode talks about physiological activities, and physical mode is talking about group activities. So here it is physiology, there it is physical. One is for individual, the other is for group. Physiological physical mode, what Roy has told us, five basic needs and four complex process, we should have adaptation. What are the five basic needs she told? Oxygenation, nutrition, elimination, activity and rest, protection. Four complex processes, senses, fluid electrolyte, acid base balance, neurological function, endocrine function. Let me tell all postgraduate students, especially medical, surgical, or even for advanced nursing practice, when you want to apply a theory to a patient, especially you can apply this because Roy has given importance to physiological problems. See, all problems are listed down there. You can write about impaired gas exchange, ineffective breathing pattern, imbalanced nutrition, constipation, activity intolerance, related to protecting oneself from injury, that is the primary defense, impaired skin integrity, okay, fluid and electrolyte imbalance, acid base imbalance, neurological function, endocrine problems. For all those things you can depend on Roy's adaptation model, because in her model she has given importance to this physiological physical mode. So manifestations of physiological activities of cell, tissue, organ, and system. When everything is perfect, when you are physically healthy, you will have physiological integrity. See, this is very important in Roy's adaptation model, because physiological physical mode gives importance to which integrity? Physiological integrity. When physiologically your body is stable, you call that as physiological integrity. So that is about the first mode, first effector, physiological, physical mode. When everything within the body, within the group is going to be in equilibrium, you say that there is physiological, physical integrity. Now we go on to the second effector in Roy's adaptation model, that is self-concept group identity mode. She not only gave importance to the physiology and the physical, she gave importance to the psychology. That is what you call here a self-concept and group identity mode. Just like physiological physical, self-concept is for individual, group identity is for group. So please remember, two words are coming. Okay, self-concept is for one individual, whereas group identity is for group. Now let us see in depth what is the self-concept mode. Self-concept mode is, it talks about a lot of beliefs and feelings. So that is why I told you it is psychological integrity. Okay, adaptation is not only physiological, you have to be adapted psychologically. The belief and feelings a person holds about him or herself at a given time. There are some people who have very good self-concept. They have a good opinion about themselves. That is what is called as self-concept. The belief and the feeling you have about yourself is called as self-concept. Again, Roy divided it. Roy said that this self-concept mode is having two things. See here, physical self and personal self. Let us see what is physical self. Physical means what? Physical self outside. So physical self is giving more importance to body, the physical body, body image, body sensation. How you feel good about yourself? How do you look at your body? Are you having a positive body image or a negative body image? There are some people who are very pretty, who are very beautiful, but when you ask them, they'll say that this is not correct in my body, that I don't like in that body. They have a very negative body image. Whereas there are some people on the opposite side. They may be having a physical handicap, but still they feel and they have a very good body image. So it is not dependent on the physical aspect, it is dependent on how you view at your own body. So it is psychology, body image, body sensation, that is physical self. What is personal self? She gave more importance to moral and ethical, that type of self, that is self consistency, self ideal, moral, ethical, spiritual self. It is not how I look outside, how much I feel good about myself inside, how much I feel spiritual about myself inside. Do I have any moral or ethical values which I treasure, which is inside? That is why she gave that word as personal self. And so, what is the goal of this self concept group identity mode? As I told you earlier, it is psychic integrity, spiritual integrity. So, two effectors we discussed. One is Physiological-physical, main integrity is physiological integrity. The second one is self-concept group identity mode. There are two types of self-concept. You have physical self, you have personal self. Physical self is body image. Personal self is your self-esteem. Actually, how you feel good about yourself, your moral self, ethical self, spiritual self. What integrity? Psychic and spiritual integrity. Then, along with self-concept group identity, I told you about group identity is there. That is for group. What is that? Interpersonal relationship, the group self-image, the group culture, identity integrity is the underlying need. Say, for example, you belong to a class of students or you belong to a batch of specialty students. Within that particular group, how much of identity you have, how you are able to adapt yourself, the group as such, what type of image you have, what is that particular group self image, how you get identity with each other, that is called as group identity mode. The third one, role function mode. It is not enough if you are adapted physiologically and psychologically. It is very important that you have to adapt to the given role. All of us, those of you who are listening to this video, the presenter, myself, we all have different roles in our life. How many roles we play in our life? What is role? Because role is nothing but the positions what we hold. I am a female, okay, I am a mother, I am a daughter, daughter-in-law, wife, maybe maybe I am a friend of somebody, I am a teacher, I am a student. So I have so many different positions in my life. All these things may apply to you. So we all have a complex positions. Each one of us, we all hold a complex positions in our life. So we can say that I have a primary role, secondary role, tertiary role. Maybe primary role, maybe I am a female by nature, maybe I am a mother, I am a wife. Okay, all those things are primary. Secondary role, maybe I am a teacher, I teach in a college, maybe what to say, I am a researcher. All those things are secondary role. Tertiary role is maybe I am a resident of a particular residential area, maybe I am the secretary of some resident association, maybe I am an Indian citizen. All those things are actually tertiary role. So I have my own role. You also have the same, equal, or even more roles. So that's the complex position. Now, why does the Roy talks about it? Roy talks about it because she says that adaptation should be there in the role. When you become a teacher, your way of a teacher, the role of a teacher should be reflected in your life. When you are a mother, that role of a mother should be visible in your life. When that is not taking place, you say that there is no adaptation in that particular role. It's very pathetic, it's very sad to hear that nowadays even mothers are killing their own children. Now, actually speaking, for that role of a mother, that adaptation has not happened. It is a, we can say that it is not integrated, it is compromised. Okay, that adaptation is not taking place. So whichever role we are, we should be able to do that role, we should be able to adapt to that role in a proper way. So Roy gave importance to it. Okay. So why we need to do that? The integrity is social integrity. So physiological integrity is over, psychological, spiritual integrity is over. The third one is social integrity. Knowing who one is in relation to others. The way you speak to your friend, the way you speak to your mother, you may not speak to a third person. The reason is we know who one is in relation to others. So in that also we have to have good adaptation. The same thing in group. Before going to group, role transition. This is the place when adaptation problem usually happens. Role transition. So far I was a daughter, but maybe later now I have become a daughter-in-law. Role transition. So I should be able to adapt to that new role. So far I was a student, but now suddenly I am a teacher. So far I was a teacher, but now I am being promoted as a class coordinator. Maybe I am going on to a higher level. So how far you are able to adapt to that new role transition is very important. There also adaptation is very important. So that is role transition. What in the group, if you're going to see role of person in a society, role within a group, it's very important. Even within a family, how you are able to fulfill your roles within the family, whether you're able to adapt yourself to the family or even to any other group. So that is third one, role function. Number four is interdependence mode. Interdependence mode, Roy did not stop there. She told role adaptation. The last but the most important one is she gave importance to interdependence mode. Relational integrity. How many of you have very good relation with many people in this world so that you are able to have feel that adaptation? Relational integrity. How do you get that interdependence? It is giving and receiving love, giving and receiving respect, values through effective relations and communication. When you are able to have that in your life, you have relational integrity. Okay, like in an individual, do you have a significant other? Is there somebody whom you can depend on when you have a problem? Or even without a problem, is there somebody, that significant other, the support system? In a group, the interdependence mode is how far you can depend on another person. Even as a nursing team, when you're working, how far you can depend on your other co-workers in your unit, okay, in your unit, so that you can get some help from them during your shift duty. That is interdependence mode. That is, you will have a feeling of security in nurturing the relationship because it gives you relational integrity. So that is about the effector. So we have completed the input, we have completed the control process, we have completed the effector in the four modes. The last one is output. It's very simple. When all these things are taking place within a system, okay, the output is only two. Either like this flower, it will be an adaptive response, or maybe like this bud, it is going to be an ineffective response. So what is going to come out of this person? Is it an adaptive response or is it an ineffective response? So that is about the this is the crux of Roy's theory. If somebody is asking you in the exam, explain Roy's adaptation model, please give importance to this picture. Try to remember the concepts which are given in the picture, the four headings and the multiple headings which are coming under these headings. So this is a picture given by, this is a model which is given by Sister Callista Roy. See here, you have the stimuli. What are the three types of stimuli? We have focal, we have contextual, we have residual stimuli. Then what is happening? Adaptation is taking place. You have the control process that is called as the coping process. So she has not put regulator and cognator, but she wrote that coping process in the center, which can be regulator, cognator, innate or acquired. Now, this is visible in four modes: physiological, physical, self-concept, group identity, role function, interdependence. When all these things are taking place within a human being, the behavior comes out. What is that behavior? That is our output, whether it is an effective response or whether it is an ineffective response. So, I hope this framework is clear. Now, we'll go on to say what Roy is telling. The same thing what I explained to you, she has put it in just points in her theory. According to Roy, person is an open system. I want you to remember the word open because this individual is interacting with the environment. This individual is interacting with other persons. Adaptive open system. Input, three stimuli, adaptation level. So in input we have stimuli and adaptation level. Then this input is mediated by the regulator and the cognator. That is the second part, regulator system, cognator system. The third part is effectors. Effectors is the four modes: physiological, self-concept, role function, interdependence. Output is adaptive or ineffective. Okay. If you are adapting well, it will lead to survival. There will be growth. There will be reproduction. There will be self-mastery. But if you are not having an ineffective, if you are ending up with an ineffective response, then the goal will not be achieved. So that is in nutshell about Roy's adaptation model. Now let us go on to assumptions. Why to study assumptions? From a student's level, okay, when I think from the level of a student, to remember all these things, it may be quite difficult. But for each theory, you should remember at least few words. If you understand the base of the theory, it is easy to write for exam. And there are certain question papers where they specifically ask, discuss the assumptions and propositions according to a particular theory. Okay, so in Roy's theory, I want you to remember that there are three assumptions which are given by Callista Roy, that is philosophical assumption, scientific assumptions, cultural assumptions. At least you should remember this. In many textbooks, in websites, in what to say, textbooks of say Julia B. George or even in Fawcett, you have n number of assumptions given under philosophical, scientific, cultural. If you find it very difficult to study all the assumptions, at least study two assumptions from each one. Okay, so I'll just take two assumptions for each level. First one is philosophical assumption. Philosophy, she talks about spirituality, she talks about life, that is called as philosophical assumption. See here, a person is having a relationship with the world, a person is having a relationship with a God figure. Human meaning is rooted in an omega point, that is convergence of the universe, spirituality. Roy is talking about spirituality in philosophical assumption. It is not pure spirituality. She is talking about an omega point. She is talking about a God figure, having a relationship with the world and God figure. See this one, this is a scientific. See here, it is a scientific assumption. What is a scientific assumption? She told that when the human and the environment is getting integrated, there is adaptation. That we all know. So far we studied that only. When environment and humans are getting integrated life process, it will end up with adaptation. Thinking and feeling only leads to human action. You will have to study at least two assumptions. Please don't limit to two. If you can study more than that, it is well and good. Otherwise, at least read these, at least try to write that there are three levels of assumptions: philosophical, scientific. The third one, look here, it is cultural assumption. Here, experiences within a specific culture will influence how each element of the Roy adaptation model is expressed, because within a culture, there are so many differences between cultures. So, what is true for one culture need not be true for another culture. Okay, so maybe how I am going to show my love and affection in an interdependence mode will be entirely different from a developed country where they are going to show that relationship. For them, hugging or kissing is going to be a very simple one. But for a person who is having an Indian culture, we may have a little bit of modification in how we show our interdependence mode. So the experiences may influence how within a culture how this Roy adaptation is going to be expressed. So implications for education and research may differ from the experience in original culture. So what is true, what research finding is true for one culture need not be true for another culture. So that is about the assumptions. So now we have completed the three levels of assumptions. Number one is philosophical, talking about God figure and omega point. Number two is scientific, it talks about the real theory. And number three is she gave importance to culture. Now we go on to proposition. I hope you all remember what is a proposition. It is a statement that is connecting two or more concepts is called as proposition. So let us study at least three or four propositions. See, you can write it very easily because whatever you have understood now from that input, control process, effector and the output, based on that only Roy has formulated the proposition. So let us see here the stimuli, which is internal or external, psychological, social, physical, physiological, is an input. See here, stimuli is an input. That is what we discussed. Stimuli is an input. Number two, adaptation levels affect the human system's ability to respond positively. We studied adaptation level. Based on that adaptation level, I told you the threshold is different. That will affect the human system's ability to respond positively. The characteristics of the stimuli will influence the behavioral response. Goal of nursing is to promote adaptation in the four adaptive modes, contributing to health, quality of life, or dying with dignity. It's a very simple one. If you understood the theory, once you have understood it, read her propositions. Many propositions Roy has given. I have just selected three or four. It's very easy to study and very easy to understand. Try to link one concept and the other concept, it becomes a proposition. Now coming on to the meta paradigm. Hope you remember we discussed in the previous videos about meta paradigm. Mainly I told you there are four meta paradigms which we give importance, but according to Melis it is seven. Okay. So let us discuss only that four concepts under that meta paradigm. Person or human being. You need not even by heart what is given in this meta paradigm. If you have understood Roy's adaptation theory, you can very well write by yourself, because see here what we studied so far only is put in this meta paradigm. A human being is in constant interaction with another person, with the environment. We have innate and acquired mechanisms to adapt. Human being is an adaptive system. This human being in Roy's theory can either be an individual or a group. So that is why I told you Roy has brought carefully everywhere group. Okay, so you cannot criticize her theory because person means it can be an individual or it can be a group. So, according to Roy, who is a person? A person is an open adaptive system with regulator and cognator subsystem striving to maintain adaptation in four adaptive modes. You can write it because once you have understood what is human being, I know that okay, stimuli is coming, the adaptation level is there within me, cognator regulator system is there within me. Main thing is adaptation is the main thing which can happen in the four modes. So we saw in that one picture that the whole thing is adaptation, that circle. Okay, so you can write based on that. Coming on to environment, very simple. Environment means what? Stimuli. What you should remember is the stimuli. Okay, all conditions, all circumstances and influences which is surrounding and affecting the development of a person or a group. Okay, including focal, contextual and residual. At least try to remember that environment here, it refers to stimuli. Stimuli can either be focal stimuli, contextual stimuli, residual stimuli. Environment, let me make it very clear, it can be within. I told you it can be an internal stimuli or it can be an external stimuli. It can be within a human or it can be around a human, and it is the environment which is stimulating a person to make adaptive response, because stimuli is coming from the environment, and that is why environment is challenging a person to develop adaptation. The third one is health. We know person, health, environment, nursing. So person is over, environment is over, next is health. Health is a state and process of being and becoming integrated. I want you to remember this. Adaptation, integration, that is called as health according to Roy. According to Roy, what is health? Having integration. Being integrated, becoming integrated is adaptation. Sorry, is health according to Roy. And health, here she viewed it as adaptation. Previously, earlier, Roy told that health is represented by health illness continuum. You all would have studied what is health illness continuum. Great health on one side and worst illness on the other side. But later on, Roy rechanged it. What did Roy do? Roy reframed it, and Roy told that health is a process in which both health and illness can coexist. Like she had seen, there are some people who are suffering from spinal cord injury. Okay, there are many people who are suffering from severe illness, but you find them well balanced. You find them, they are very happy with their life. So even in spite of illness, you can have adaptation. So adaptation is a process in which both health and illness can coexist. So first she told it's a continuum, but later she reframed it that okay, both health and illness can coexist. Only thing is a person should reflect adaptation. So that is health. Nursing. Nursing, we have already said in one slide, the goal of nursing is to promote adaptation. To promote adaptation for whom? For either the individual or for the group in the four adaptive modes, physiological, physical, self-concept, that four modes, to contribute to health, quality of life, or even to die with dignity. How can I promote adaptation? By assess the behavior, assess the factors, and then enhance the environmental factors to promote full life potential for individual, family, group, and the global society is nursing. Nursing is to promote adaptation. So, meta paradigm, health, environment, person, nursing. I'll just tell one keyword for everything. Person is an open adaptive system having his own adaptation level, having that four modes. Environment is the stimuli. It can be focal, contextual, and residual stimuli. Environment helps for adaptation. Health. First, she told it is health illness continuum, but health is nothing but adaptation. Adaptation means health and illness can coexist. Nursing. Goal of nursing is to promote adaptation in all the four modes, not only for an individual but also for a group, by assessing and then by enhancing the factors. The last slide, critic of the theory. A detailed critic, maybe I will do that in a separate video. This is from a student side. If you want to write for an exam, what is the critic of Roy's theory? All these are positive things. Negative things have not been mentioned here. I can tell you that Roy's theory is very clearly and consistently defined. Okay, lot of concepts are there, is it not? Don't you think so many concepts are there? Three stimuli, two coping mechanisms, two coping process, four modes. You have so many concepts and sub concepts are there. But still, whatever she has told it, she has told it very clearly and beautifully. It is broad in scope. So Roy's theory, you can apply it for any group of patients. Okay, it's not that she told it's only for patients with cancer. Okay, she never told that it's only for persons with amputation. It is broad in scope and it's generalizable therefore, and it is logical. Yes, you can appreciate it. It's practical and it is easy to understand. It is researchable. Okay, so in summary, I would like to say this is Roy's adaptation model, which you have to remember: the input, stimuli. Stimuli, focal contextual residual. Adaptation, innate and acquired, I told you. Genetic, this is learned. Integrated is well adapted. Challenged is activated by a challenge. Compromised is not adapted. Coping process, two methods are there mainly in coping process: regulator and cognator. I'm so sorry, this innate and acquired, it actually comes under the coping process. That is genetic and lessons learned. Effectors, we have four modes: physiological, physical, physiological integrity, self-concept, group identity, psychological and spiritual integrity. Role is going to be social integrity. Interdependence is going to be relational integrity. So four modes. Output is either an adaptive response or an ineffective response. So this is what is Roy's adaptation model. You can find how nicely a person, after having conducted so many research, after having based on so many other theories, she has developed a very wonderful theory only talking about adaptation, what happens within us during adaptation, and what are the four areas where you can assess for adaptation, and what are the responses which can come as an output. Now, since it is a very long session, I thought the application, that is a nursing process application in a Roy's adaptation model, I will be sharing that in my next video, where we will discuss how to apply this Roy's adaptation model, how to apply this theory, okay, in the nursing process format, or how to apply this theory, that is theory application of Roy's adaptation model. I hope and I sincerely I pray that this will be useful to those, especially students who are listening to this video. So thank you all for your immense support and thanks for watching. Thank you.